Hmm.
Hello and welcome to the Galactic Oasis Unfiltered. I'm Bridget,
I'm Nikki.
I'm Lisa.
Hmm.
and we are here today to talk about time. But it's not in the way that you might be thinking. Okay, we're not talking about like let's have analog or let's have digital or let's count the minutes. It's not like that. But we keep hearing in conversation about time. And so I wanted to share a recent insight, and it's new to these two as well. So we're all getting, except for me, an insider's glimpse into my brain. So I was having an experience recently where it was like I woke up, did the normal routine, and then I looked at the clock and I was like, wow, that felt like 4 hours went by because I had so much time and space and it wasn't that long. And I'm like, that's weird. So then I keep going, keep going. And I did like everything and beyond what I had anticipated doing that day, but it was leisurely. There was no interruption. There were no distractions. Everything was just like smooth sailing. And when I got done with everything that I had intended to do and beyond that, it was still only like 4 o'clock, but I'm like, this has been 2 days worth of time. What's going on right now? Something's not adding up. And recently, Lisa and I had the conversation about like when you're younger and you are wishing your time away, like you're like, I just want to be an adult. I just want to move out of my parents' house. I want, right? And so, but those days when we were younger, remember how long the day would feel? And then as you get older, it's like, why does the day feel compressed? Right.
Mhm.
And so I've really been thinking about this from the concept of if I am the creation of reality, how am I misunderstanding the way that my time is being used? Right. Or how am I not fully responsible, for lack of a better word? That's not the right word, but it's if I'm the one doing it, how am I not aware that I'm doing it? And how am I like making things go faster instead of slowing
Mhm.
them down so that there really is plenty of time to do all of the things? You know what I mean? And so, like, I'm wondering if you have had that experience where you're, for lack of a better word, like absorbed in something, gardening, making a costume, doing some art project. And like you look up and you're like, wow, I've been doing this all day, but only like 30 minutes went by. Is that right? Have you had that experience?
Mhm.
Yeah, both sides of that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So where it feels like it went faster than it should, and other times where it's wow, time feels like I've got so much more done than I should have in that amount of time. Both ends of that time continuum spectrum. Yeah, Vicky?
Yeah, I'm thinking, like when I was a kid, the idea of, having all the time in the world, right, to do things, but then also being in school and like, oh my God, I've only been sitting here for 5 minutes. God, it's only been, you know what I mean? Like how long a whole class would drag on because you just absolutely wanted to do anything other than be in that class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the weather was getting nice and it was like, I want to fucking go outside and this takes forever. Yeah. But then, yeah, I find that days, and I don't know, because I know that, I mean, you talk to any older person and they're like, yeah, when you get older, time just speeds up. Um, but the conscious awareness of time, like if we didn't look at our phones, if we didn't wear a watch, if we didn't have any human construct of what time is, and we just existed and allowed the sun, Helios, to tell us what time it was, and Luna to tell us what time it was, how expansive really is the day? But because we've structured things so that I can tell you what time to be here and you know what time to be here, right? Instead of saying, when the sun is at its zenith, right? Like that doesn't make sense to anybody.
No, but we should start talking like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll
Right.
meet you at half a slice,
Mm-hmm.
It's like the pie
Mm-hmm.
of the day. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that makes
easy.
me think of sundials,
Yeah.
back in the
Yeah.
day, right? We didn't have wall clocks and we didn't
Mm-mm.
have wristwatches and phones and the such. And people did tell the time of day and the seasons based on where the
Mm-hmm.
stars were at and the sun and moon based on the sky. But then we also talk about like the tilt of the earth and how that alters it, right? Because the earth
Mm-hmm.
axis does actually rotate and shift over time. And people think, oh my God, it's the end of the world. And then, every few centuries, everybody thinks it's the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, it's a totally natural occurrence. And there is this
Mm-hmm.
progression of like this wobble, right? We actually do have a little bit of a wobbly orbit. But also, time is relative, and science has actually been able to prove relativity of time space. We start looking at what we've discovered in space and through telescopes and through these amazing sorcery-like technologies that they can actually see time and space bend around black holes and disappear at
Mm-hmm.
the event horizon. And they've actually been able to prove here on Earth how time is different in different parts of the world. And not
Mm-hmm.
just different parts of the world, but also at your feet versus your head. I mean, we're talking about like very
Mm-hmm.
very high tech technology here that can sense time between the time that is at your foot and the time that is up above your head. There's actually milliseconds of difference. That is how minute the relativity of time is. So then that makes me wonder, okay, when we're younger, we think all the time in the world, how long summer break used to feel, right? And we're younger. And then as we're getting older, it seems like it's getting faster. And again, yes, maybe that's just our awareness, our perspective, sure, all those things. But it makes me wonder, what if there is a way, since they can measure it from like the base of the Earth into the atmosphere and how it changes, and same thing with a black hole, how you get closer and closer to the black hole and how time literally actually stops. Time and space it ceases to exist with at least to our measurements, right? We can't measure that. um, but what if, as we are getting older, we are getting closer to something, right? Closer to our
Mm-hmm.
transition back to source, and thus time is speeding up as we're approaching it, as opposed to like as we're getting closer to a black hole, time is slowing down. It's really interesting. I don't know.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you're like, we're getting closer to something. I'm like, Grim Reaper. No.
Yep. Yep. Knock knock. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Transitions,
it also,
yeah.
when I was younger, I had all the time in the world, but I didn't know how to use it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like I had interests, I had friends, I had things, but they weren't necessarily things that I was like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't wait. Now every morning I wake up and I'm like, well, I have this amazing thing and that amazing
Mm-hmm.
thing and this amazing, my interest level has like peaked, and there are so many things that I want to be a part of or do or like, show up for. And it makes me think about in one of my trainings years ago, the power of yes,
Mm-hmm.
like how yes can
Mhm.
expand time, and saying yes to something that isn't actually what you want to be doing will condense
Mhm.
time.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And so that's why having this experience recently where I was really like, I was paying attention to it, but I didn't know I was paying attention to it until after I was like, oh, I just paid attention to that. Does that make sense? It wasn't like I set
Yes.
out to run an experiment, but when I was done, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, no, I'm acutely aware of what just happened. And it is about focus and it is about attention. But Lisa, in hearing you talk about the measurement from the toe up to the head, I'm like, okay, so we get shorter as we get older, but we started out short and then we got taller. So, like, those measurements are kind of curious, right? Like, I'm not a
Yeah,
mathematician, but I'm like,
yeah.
I'm curious about how that would all math out. Um,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, good
Like,
point.
I'm curious about
Mhm.
that.
Hmm.
But also, like, how much of our attention, and here's the caveat, what I want to be paying attention to as opposed to what wants me to pay attention to it.
Mm.
Mm.
Do
It's
you
a
know what I'm
good
saying?
one.
Very
Yeah.
different. Because when I'm paying attention to what I want to pay attention to, everything lengthens and slows.
Mhm.
But
Hmm.
when I'm paying attention to what wants me to pay attention, now I don't feel like I have enough time.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like I'm thinking about, when I get up in the morning, I don't use an alarm clock, which I'm very grateful for, and I hope to never have to use one. Um, but I get up and it's like I walk into the kitchen and it's like, okay, it's 6:30 or oh shit, it's already 7:15, right? And now like there's a bunch of things that I have to do. And then, well, I don't have time to do this now because I have a Zoom call at 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I want to be in a space where like I don't fucking care what time the clock's at. Like what does it feel like to get up? And it doesn't matter if it's 6:30 or 7:15 or 8:45 in the morning. That has no bearing on my existence because that's just a number that was put on the clock. And to your point, I don't have to pay attention to anything. I'm just going about my day. I'm not going, okay, well, it's, 7 p.m. and, gee, I should probably go to bed around 10. So I should stop what I'm doing now and go eat something because I don't want to eat and then lay down to go to bed because I have to get up at this certain time. And so if you got rid of all of those parameters and just existed, how much time would you have? Or like, people do experiments with not looking in a mirror. Like, what's it like to go through
Hmm.
your life and have absolutely no comprehension of what you look like, you know, and to not give that any thought whatsoever. You have a unibrow, who gives a shit? You know what I mean? You got celery in your teeth, no one cares, right? Like, what's like, how freeing is that, So, yeah, like that's what I think of when I think of lengthening time is just doesn't even exist.
Mhm. Yeah, well, I mean, we all had a similar, meaning the three of us had a similar experience around COVID,
Hmm.
where a lot of the expectations of our time changed pretty radically,
Hmm.
and it did begin that experiment of like lengthening days and not having to consider certain things that we normally would,
Hmm.
because you weren't able to go to work, like you physically couldn't be there, Um, but to your point about the mirror, I will be honest with you. I very seldom use mirrors, but I'm a feeler. Like I can
Hmm.
feel what's going on my
Hmm.
face or on my body. So I can't escape that.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
guess if my hands, and I'm not creating this, but if my hands were bound in some way, then I might have more like dependency on a mirror. But I've changed the mirror to like my hands. So like,
Hmm.
hairs or unibrows, or I can feel all of it. Like I get a gnarly one right here that like comes out this long. I'm like, that's amazing. And it's you can't even see it, but I can feel it every time. It's wild.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
So the concept of time, yes.
Hmm.
And there is an interplay of like the stars, right? So the astrology, depending on what
Hmm.
planet is close to what, and that affects how we not just perceive time, but how time is perceiving us.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, interesting.
It is interesting. Yeah. Like, is there I guess there would be an orbital change too with
Mm-hmm.
certain lineups, right? So that would like does it speed up the rotation?
Yeah, depending on what planet is close and
Yeah. The
yeah, what
gravity.
other orbiting bodies might be around us.
Hmm.
Yeah, like people talk about having a second moon. It's like, well, there's other bodies that end up a lot of people perceive it as a second orbiting body. And so over time, over like the course of history, there's been documented like second moons. The Earth has two moons. Yeah, sometimes we do, but it's not the same idea as a moon, but it is still affecting the gravitational pull of the Earth. It's affecting the other energies that are coming through the actual cosmic energies, the cosmic rays. So there's a lot that goes into how we are feeling here on this planet, and that is also why it's always relative to something else.
Mm. Makes me think of that book, The Little.
But isn't that just life? I mean, isn't that life, right? Like that is how we perceive our day. How you wake up and perceive your day is going to affect your day. I'm one of the things I used to say all the time is like if I wake up and say it's going to be a shitty day, well, I'm probably going to have a shitty day because I already woke up and determined that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not magical. It's literally freaking perception, right? If I tell myself anything, if I tell myself, well, I'm open to the experience of the day, that leaves it pretty open-ended. That could be a great day, you know? Like it's like the baby steps. Like if I'm talking to somebody and like trying to help them figure out how to change their perspective. Sometimes telling somebody who's always waking up with a negative attitude to just change your attitude and have a positive, it's a hard leap. You can't bridge that gap. So how about just leaving it open to being curious or leaving it just open-ended? I'm curious to know what today will bring. And then the minute I start to say, oh, well, it's probably going to be up, no, you know what? I'm going to stop that thought right there and say, I am open and just keep reminding myself, I'm open to whatever the day brings. I'm open and hopefully it'll be a great day, as opposed to waking up immediately and saying, it's going to be a fantastic day. Everything's going to go my way. That's probably also not a realistic jump from this end of the spectrum to this, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of Matt Kahn, like one of his,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember the name of the book. It had something about love, but one of the practices was to say, I welcome.
Mm,
I welcome this uncomfortable feeling, or I welcome, yeah, I
yes.
welcome this, like, disturbance, if you will. And, it's funny because we think about when our eyes open, but a lot of it is set up before our eyes close.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, how do we go to
Mm,
bed? Are we going to bed anxious about the next day? Well, guess what?
right.
When your eyes pop open, you're off to the races.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But if we go to bed relaxed
Yeah.
and like, okay, that was everything I could have hoped for and more. Let's see what tomorrow
Hmm.
brings, universe, like where are we going tomorrow? That's
And that affects our actual sleep as
yeah,
well.
for sure.
If I'm going to bed anxious and worried, or fill in the blank, however I go to bed, that's going to affect my sleep as well as how I wake up the next day.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
good point.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, like being the masters of our universe. Wasn't that a cartoon, maybe?
It is.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't recall actually watching it. Um, but yeah, masters of the universe. Yeah.
Yep. And
Uh,
Skeletor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. He was part of
oh my
that.
goodness. Yeah,
Yep.
they were trying to tell us in our Saturday morning cartoons. They're like, look, kids, everything's going to be
Hmm.
great.
Yep.
And also buy your Cheerios.
Yes.
uh, any
Hmm.
last thoughts about time?
Well, yeah, because I'm listening to you all and I'm like, okay, I had mentioned like Helios and Luna, right? So you have like male, female. Then I'm like, we talk about Mother Earth, right? And like Mother Earth is, gives birth, it's very expansive. And then what do we call time? Father time,
Mm,
right? So we're applying this like male energy around this structured thing, right? Whereas Mother Earth is like, and like, here's everything you could possibly want exists, and I've given birth to. And then Father Time is like, yes, and it all needs to be structured and regimented. And, I'm like, ooh.
yeah. Yeah. During our eco psychology, no, it was ecotherapy training, someone in the class had brought up the terminology lover earth.
Hmm.
And I really
Hmm.
liked that because when you think about the energy behind it, like to think of the planet as a mother, like it brings up a lot because I'm like, this is a very abusive relationship,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know? But if we think of it from being a non paternal, maternal energy into something that's loving,
Mm-hmm.
love is very generous, right? In a lot of ways, and it's constant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, that softens a lot of things for me around
Hmm.
the idea of the earth and our relationship to it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
think of it as a loving relationship.
Mm-hmm.
What changes?
Yeah.
Because I mean, hey, I have mother wounds. I'm like, don't
Well,
put this
and
on
it's
me.
not, yeah,
Yeah,
it's a just from changing it from mother to lover, then it's more not generic, but it's just it's can be any kind of loving relationship. Like
it's
there's
broader.
no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
there's no timeline, there's no structure around it.
And there
Yeah.
goes, we don't need a father.
Mm-hmm.
We no longer have a mother.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
what do we call time now, right?
Our bitch. No.
Yes, there it
Take
is.
that
And
time.
on that
Oh,
lovely
that's great.
note,
Yeah, that's
Yep.
great. All
Yep.
right.
all right.
I love it.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you very much. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Until next, bitch.
There is no time.